As a kid?
As a kid.
Oh. Oh.
Wow.
That's a good question. You want me to go back to like 20 years when I was 5?
This is probably a cheat because I was slightly older. I was going to say The Hobbit.
I think it probably Enid Blyton. Enid Blyton, famous 5. Oh.
I read along with my daughter who's 6 and learning just the sort of shapes of narratives and the shapes of stories and trying to guess what will happen next and seeing how these kind of archetypal narratives sort of begin to seep into our brains is fascinating, and I think that's what it's all about.
One of my favorite books as a child was called Tiger Pig, which was a picture book with a pig with tiger stripes. But my favorite of all time is The Hobbit.
Oh, who else?
Oh, well, Paddington was a real... I mean, this is going to sound like a load of baloney, but it's absolutely true. Paddington was one of the first books that I had read to me by my parents. It wasn't really a book I read myself until I was older.
I think the more that you can understand stories and storytelling, and the more that you can enjoy being in the realm of fantasy and imagination, the better. And that's your first entry to that as a kid is books.
Amazingly, I read a book when I was a kid called Danny Dunn Time Traveller, which no one's ever heard of, which was brilliant. And years later, I grew up and I was looking after some disadvantaged kids, so I started reading it to them, and they loved it too. So that's going to be my one.
The other book that I was genuinely passionate about was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is why I couldn't turn down making one. So that I had a sort of copy which I read a million times until the pages fell out of the spine. So Paddington was sort of the first book I got read to me, and Wonka was one of the first books that I read for myself, and or rather Charlie was one of the first books I read for myself. So I've been blessed to be able to revisit my childhood. Or cursed, one or the other. A bit of both. Okay, good, thanks.
But Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone's Choose Your Own Adventure.
Oh, love that.
One Christmas, I got 12 of them on Christmas Day, and it was my favourite Christmas ever as a kid. I've made up this saying, which I don't know if it's true or not, but I always say you can never spoil a kid with a book. So I feel like I buy my kids comics, books, novels, short books, anything that they can read, and I can see the delight on their faces.